Hey, what's up everybody? This is Adrian Mason. I'm back again with the video analysis debut of What Have We All Learned? I'm going to be doing this after every game of the week, Tuesdays primarily, after the Monday night games, to give perspective on what I predicted was going to happen in said games, what really happened in said games, and what did we all learn. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. Now, I posted quickly a GIF or just a quick post about my prediction of the New York Giants-Dallas Cowboys game. As we all know, I got that one dead wrong. Dead wrong. If you watch that game, you watch Tony Romo go to another receiver that wasn't Miles Austin, that wasn't Dez Bryant, that wasn't Jason Witten. Kevin Ogletree became Tony Romo's go-to guy. So Tony Romo is now starting to flex a little bit and actually spreading the ball around to some unnamed, I wouldn't say no-namers because that's just disrespectful to the players, unnamed, unheralded players on that team. Kevin Ogletree, if you pick this man up and you started him in your league, I may need to get with you on some lottery tickets here because you have some insight and foresight that is uncanny. Because I don't think anybody that watched that game would have predicted that Kevin Ogletree would have had the game of his life. This guy's from the Bronx. He goes and plays a team that's New York based. It's in New Jersey, but work with me here. He goes back to the East Coast and balls out. I didn't see it coming. I doubt anybody outside of the Dallas Metroplex saw that coming. Another thing is the money that Jerry Jones invested in bringing in Brandon Carr and the draft picks that they sacrificed to move up to number 6, if I'm not mistaken, to pick up Morris Claiborne, that might pay off. You might want to keep an eye on this because if that secondary is tight, you got DeMarcus Ware, you got Sean Lee, Dallas could be in the mix. Now, I'm not going to go too heavy in saying, hey, they could be perennial contenders because a team like that we've seen year in and year out that expectations are so high that they don't meet them. So I'm pumping the brakes on that, but I am saying be on the lookout and watch how that secondary progresses over time because if watching them play against the receivers of Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks and how they played Eli Manning's passing game, it could be a problem this year. On the Giants side, they got to get healthy. They had many starters out, and even some of their replacement players got hurt in this game too. And the Cowboys exploited that because if you watch that game, Romo just had Kevin Ogletree run slants over and over and over, and he was open over and over and over. That secondary has got to get shored up because they cannot rely on that front four consistently to provide pressure because a scrambler like Romo can make you pay. So the Giants got to get healthy. And David Wilson, their rookie running back, it's been known that he's got fumble problems. He has fumbleitis. And it came to fruition in the game against the Cowboys. He coughed the ball up. So, and matter of fact, there's even video of him shedding tears about it. So the Giants have to help him. Matter of fact, get Tiki Barber on the phone. Don't bring him near the facilities, but just get him on the phone and just have him work with David Wilson the same way that Coughlin had Tiki Barber worked in holding the ball high and running with the ball high and not holding it like a loaf of bread. And Victor Cruz, you might want to put some ice on your dome. You might want to get an ice pack, put it on your dome, and reduce the swelling of your head. Because you had a crappy game. Doesn't matter you had 6 catches for X amount of yards. You dropped 3. You dropped 3 sure-handed passes that you normally would catch. You caught all those last year. And in the NFC Championship, that's all you did was catch passes. Why was the opening night any different? You need to shore that up, young man. Just got to say it like that. Basically, what we learned is that Dallas's secondary investment may pay off. It's only week 1, but the results and the return on investment is a positive for them. The Giants, health. They have to be one of the most, if not the most cursed team in the league with how many times that there's somebody getting hurt. And it's always on their defense. It's always in their secondary. You look at when they had Terrell Thomas. You look at when they had, well, Well, Terrell Thomas, he's out. You look at when they have Prince Amukamara. They just drafted him 2 seasons ago, and he has yet to really truly contribute. Kenny Phillips. I mean, the list goes on and on. Cole, who was replacing Amukamara, he got hurt. So health is an issue here. But we've all known this about the Giants. But they seem to find a way to turn it up late in the season, get in the postseason, and make things work. But they got to stop with all these slow starts and guys getting hurt. They need some better conditioning. They need some better conditioning personnel in that franchise. That's just my opinion. But that's what we learned from the Cowboys and Giants game. I predicted that the Giants would win that. I got that one wrong. So let's move on to the next game here. The Houston Texans versus the Miami Dolphins. Now, I predicted that the Houston Texans, with their offensive firepower, their defensive firepower, was going to manhandle the Dolphins. And I was completely right on that because they dominated them to a score of 30-10. And as a matter of fact, the Dolphins' only touchdown came on special teams thanks to a punt return. The Houston Texans look complete on offense, on defense. Matt Schaub and Andre Johnson look like the Matt Schaub and Andre Johnson that has been dominant in the league. Andre Johnson looks like he's back in form. And if you saw that sideline catch that he made, you know that there's a reason why he's one of the top 3 elite receivers in the league. With him, Megatron, and Fitzgerald. There's a reason. This man makes the impossible look easy. So you got that passing game working. You have Arian Foster and Ben Tate cooking. You had the defense doing what they do best. I saw it coming. Now, the Dolphins, their debut QB, or their debut with their rookie QB, Ryan Tannehill, this was more of a baptism by fire, if you will, because he went up against the league's second best defense from last season. And tip passes and just really a total lack of offensive cohesiveness led to the Dolphins getting blown out like that. Now, granted, Reggie Bush pretty much had a pretty decent game. If you watch that game, you watch his runs, he's not quick to just bounce it to the outside. He's actually getting in between the tackles. He's actually running the ball heavy in the middle. He's actually wanting to be a complete running back. So they do have some positives with him. And Tannehill did have some cohesiveness. Excuse me, I couldn't, for lack of a better term. I don't want to keep repeating a word over and over, or ad nauseum, if you will. But basically the connection he had with Brian Hartline, that's a positive sign. It shows that he has a receiver he can trust. And over time, him and Devon Bess and Anthony Fasano, they can work with each other some more. But in this game, I did notice he was really relying on Hartline to move the ball down the field. But what I predicted was the Houston Texans dominating. They proved me right. So what we learned is that the Houston Texans, there's a reason why they are the chic pick in winning the AFC. They proved it. And it wasn't like they beat a world beater in the Dolphins, but if you watch that game, they were clicking on all cylinders. And there's no way that you can't say that they don't have a chance of really making a splash in the AFC. They were the chic pick year after year after year after year after year, and they disappointed. But from last year to where we're at now with this team, they have a chance to actually make people's predictions come true. What we learned from the Dolphins, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Defensively, offensively, you're with the rookie, you've got a rookie QB. So he's going to be going through some growing pains, straight up. And there's no better way for him to experience what it's like to have these growing pains than to go up against a defense that was one of the tops in the league. So his growth process was sped up by going up against a top-flight defense his first weekend. So the Dolphins know that they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do with having to speed up Tannehill's maturation, having to get him in sync with his receivers, get him familiar with that offensive playbook. And the thing is, it shouldn't be that hard for him because his offensive coordinator was his head coach at Texas A&M. So it's not like he's working with somebody that's brand new. He's familiar with the gentleman that's calling the plays on offense. So in due time, we'll see what he can really do. So we'll move on from that game. We'll go to the Patriots and the Titans. And the Patriots pretty much manhandled the Titans by the score of 34-13. The surprise here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the Patriots actually had a running game. Stephon Ridley actually rushed for over 100 yards in that game. And, the Patriots got a defense. Now, this is just week one. And everybody's like, well, this is week one. We'll see how they go down the line later in the season. But, like I said, what did we learn from week one? The Patriots defense actually created some plays and actually wreaked havoc, if you will. Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower, guys like that, combining on a strip sack fumble and running the fumble into the end zone for a touchdown. And then, of course, there's that Tom Brady guy with his offensive weapons, with his Aaron Hernandez and his Gronkowskis. You know what I mean? We all saw this coming. I predicted that the Patriots were going to run wild. I was right. But there were some surprises in that too. So I think the other surprise, which really shouldn't be much of a surprise if you followed them in the offseason and looking at the contracts that Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez got, was the reduction in participation for Wes Welker. If you know the Patriots front office, you know they don't really, if you're not Tom Brady or somebody of that caliber, you're expendable. And Welker's getting ready to become expendable. He only signed a franchise tender, so that means he's only making franchise money for one season. They're not going to work on building him or giving him a long-term contract because they think he's too old. And then on top of that, you look at who they brought in with Brandon Lloyd, and like I said, the two-headed tight end monster with Gronkowski and Hernandez. Welker's the odd man out. And the thing is, they could bring in Julian Edelman to play the role of Wes Welker, which they did when Welker tore his knee near the end of, what was it, the 2010 season? It was either 2010, no, it was the 2009 season. Take that back. No, I regress. 2010 season when he hurt his knee, and Julian Edelman took his spot. So, sorry, Walt, you're about to be on another team next season. That's just my prediction. Now, what have we all learned? The Patriots are the Patriots. I don't think there's anything to learn about that. We know that they're good. We know that they're one of the elite teams in the league. And they do what they do, and they do it well. The Titans, on the other hand, Jake Locker, pretty pedestrian effort. He's a second-year QB, pretty pedestrian effort. He did find Nate Washington on a scramble throw touchdown, which was the only touchdown that they scored. I think the alarming concern was the output of Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson rushed 11 carries for only 4 yards, ladies and gentlemen. 4. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. That wasn't his average. That was his total. Y'all might got a problem, Tennessee. If Chris Johnson cannot get it in gear, that's going to be an issue. Because it seems that when he went through that whole lockout and he wanted the big money, he suffered from the 4-word syndrome: got rich, stop trying. Because if you remember, when he signed his contract after that lockout last season, he came out sluggish, slow, just terrible. Just absolutely terrible. He picked it up near the end of the season, but by that time, the Titans weren't even a factor. But this is what happens when you hold out for big money and you miss practices, you miss preseason games, and you have to come in and try to pick it up as the season goes along. He's still suffering from that, and that team is suffering from that. So what have we learned? The Titans got some issues, and it all revolves around CJ2K. You got big-headed, you got the big money. Where that hung at? Where's that Chris Johnson that we all saw and feared and felt like him and Peterson were the 1-2 backs in the league? Where's that CJ at? You better find it. Where Tennessee is going to have a really miserable season. Or they're going to have a better season without him. And then they're going to have to reevaluate just how much of a value he is with that big contract. So, moving forward, one of the surprise games that I doubt a lot of us saw it coming, was the Detroit Lions and St. Louis Rams. The Lions won 27-23, but it wasn't the fact that they won, it's how they won and how this game progressed. Matthew Stafford had a terrible game. This one's one you just put in the paper shredder and just forget all about it. He threw 3 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6 for Cortland Finnegan. So this game, which I thought, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in thinking this, we all thought that the Lions were just going to run wild on the Rams, and that was going to be the end of it. I guess Jeff Fisher thought otherwise because he had that defense humming against the Lions. 3 picks, 3 picks, 1 for a pick 6. They made Stafford uncomfortable. They did this for 3 and I'd say 7/8 quarters, but it was that final drive where Matthew Stafford drove his team down the field and actually got it to Kevin Smith for the game-winning touchdown. I predicted that the Lions were just going to just stomp them out. What really happened was the Lions played crappy and got it done at the end. But you can't really sit there and say that they played crappy because the Rams actually defensively came to play. Bradford had a pedestrian, substantially good game. 1 touchdown pass, 180 some odd yards passing. Nothing to write home about, but he didn't make any mistakes other than just taking sacks and holding the ball too long. Defensively, the Rams looked a lot better than they've had in the last few years. And you got to credit Jeff Fisher for that, for getting that defense together and really taking the chance and bringing in Cortland Finnegan and then drafting Janoris Jenkins, who was a red flag for a lot of teams when he went into the draft because of what happened with him getting kicked out of Florida and playing for, was it North Alabama? But he made a big play. He was one of the ones that contributed and actually got an interception for himself. So, in this week, like I said, this is week 1. What did we learn? There's a lot more to go, but in this week, Jeff Fisher has himself a nice little defense. He just got to get that offense in tune. So, the Lions, what we learned from the Lions is that as bad as a game that Matthew Stafford had, when it's time to actually get clutch, he showed himself. He proved himself. He said, I made all these mistakes. Now I'm going to get us down the field and win this game. That's a mark of a great quarterback when they can have a statistically crappy game, but get it done when it matters. And what we also learned is that you can't rely on that week in and week out. So they got to go back to the drawing board on this. And the running game, still a big question mark for them. Kevin Smith bounces in, bounces out. Now, he had a turnover, but he was the hero in this game. He was the hero, so all is forgiven for now. But that running game and really Matthew Stafford getting back in gear, that's what we learned. We know that he can have a bad game and still get it done. But you really can't rely on that week in and week out. So, and especially with the game they got coming up next week at San Francisco in the Jim Harbaugh, Jim Schwartz handshake gate thing, whatever. But I predicted that the Lions were going to beat their ass. They barely beat them, and it took a last-minute touchdown to beat them. But I got that pick right. So, moving forward, we'll scroll down a bit here. Ah, yes. We talked about how rookie QBs are going through growing pains, and I said Tannehill, baptism by fire because of who he had to play, the Texans, number 2 defense. But there was one rookie QB that I guess they forgot to tell him he was a rookie. Robert Griffin III, ladies and gentlemen. This kid balled out. And the Washington Redskins went into the Dome and beat the New Orleans Saints 40-32. They beat a Saints team that never lost a home game last season. Surprise. Now the Saints have had to deal with Bounty Gate, and for the time being, they're going to get some of their players back that they lost due to Bounty Gate suspensions. But for them to let a rookie QB come into their house and not only play them well, but beat them. That's a problem. I predicted the Saints were going to beat the Redskins. I predicted that RG3 was going to have some big plays, but I felt like he was going to make some rookie mistakes. What really happened was RG3 completed, 10, 11 of his first, he completed 10 passes, 11 passes in a row before throwing an incompletion. And he played them well. No fear. He had a great rapport with Pierre Garçon. He had a great rapport with Fred Davis. He had that offense humming. I got that prediction wrong. But you know what? I'm not even mad about it, because it was just so much fun to watch RG3 play as well as he did, like he did when he won the Heisman at Baylor. This kid is something special. Now, the main concern would be his body frame and really just, his durability. But it's week 1. So we need to celebrate and salute this kid, because he did what Cam Newton almost did. Cam Newton, remember, he threw for 400 yards and almost beat the Cardinals. RG3, however, balled out and beat the Saints in a place that's very hard to beat that team in. He should be commended for that. Saints, Drew Brees, he got his numbers, he got his yards, but he also had his interceptions. He didn't really play as well as his stat sheet might give off, because the Redskins defense pretty much wreaked havoc on him. And then on top of that, he also had some receivers betray him too, like Colston dropping a key pass and things of that nature. The Saints just looked a little bit disheveled. Now, Jimmy Graham still got his numbers. He still got the dunk over that upright. But the fact is, that Saints team just looked a little out of sorts, because the thing is, for most of that game, they were playing from behind, period. Well, they lost, so, obviously they were playing from behind. But what I'm saying is that you would think that the Saints could match touchdown for touchdown and just go tete-a-tete with a team like the Redskins at the Dome. Nobody outside of the DMV area thought that the Redskins had a chance going up against the Saints in New Orleans. But the thing is, man, the Saints defense is still terrible. That secondary is still crap. They can't cover. They take bad angles. They get outran. They got no pressure. They got no pressure on a rookie quarterback. RG3 pretty much got to have his way with the Saints. Oh well, lesson learned. What have we learned? RG3 is something special, ladies and gentlemen. This kid has the chance to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, like I said, it's week 1. Oh my gosh, he's saying he's going to be the Rookie of the Year after 1 week. Hell, after week 2, we knew Cam Newton was going to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And so RG3 being considered the Offensive Rookie of the Year after week 1 isn't too much of a stretch, now is it? But the Redskins have a QB that Dan Snyder has been wanting since he took over that team. He has a franchise QB that he didn't have to buy in free agency. He drafted this kid. He gave up the mortgage. He put up a second mortgage on that stadium to go get him, and some draft picks he let go in the future to get him. But he feels he finally has that QB that has been eluding him since he's owned that team since 1999. They have a receiving core that gels well with RG3, with Josh Morgan and Pierre Garçon. It's a youth movement. They got a young QB with young receivers. They can grow together. And Santana Moss, being the old man of the crew, can help them speed along the maturation process. Offensively, I think the Redskins, they could be pretty potent if RG3 is as advertised like he was in week 1. What we learned about the Saints, Bounty Gate is going to hurt them for quite a bit. Because Sean Payton's not on the sidelines. He's not allowed to even be around that team for the entire season. Offensively, Drew Brees is going to get his numbers. Jimmy Graham's going to get his numbers. But that team looked a hell of a lot different than they did when Sean Payton was on that sideline. Like, yeah, they scored 32 points, but honestly, it was probably the ugliest 32 points that they ever scored, if you can call it that. But defensively, they still got issues. Spagnuolo doesn't have a front four like he had with the Giants, or hell, even the front four that he had with the Rams when he beat the Saints with him. that Saints front four, they're not really that special. They're adequate. Curtis Lofton supposed to replace Jonathan Vilma. Jury's still out on that. But that secondary is garbage. Absolute garbage. Get rid of them. Format them. Delete them. Do what you need to do with that. But bring in some corners and some safeties that can actually play the game. Roman Harper ain't going to get it done. Malcolm Jenkins ain't going to get it done. That secondary is just all sorts of terrible. But I predicted the Saints were going to win. I was wrong on that. And I'm done speaking on that team. So, having said that, let's go to another surprising game that shouldn't even have been this close. The Philadelphia Eagles going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. And they needed a last-minute touchdown from Michael Vick to beat the Browns. Because Michael Vick had not one, not two, not three, but 4 interceptions. One of those got returned back for a touchdown by D'Qwell Jackson, which put the Browns up. What the hell? What the fuck is wrong with y'all, Philly? I predicted y'all were going to just blow them out. Start every single player on offense, defense, special teams, water boy, head coach. Put Andy Reid out on the slot. I'm pretty sure he would have scored. I said that. I predicted you were going to beat the Browns. You did. But how y'all beat them? Come on now. That wasn't the Steelers. That wasn't the Patriots. That wasn't the Niners. That wasn't the Giants. Come on now. It's the Browns. And they had a QB, a rookie QB in Brandon Whedon, who's my age, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm 29. Brandon Whedon had the worst performance of a rookie QB in week 1. Like, seriously. How do you get a 5.1 QB rating? Simple. You play like Whedon did. It's a rookie QB. You expect growing pains like that, but man, it was terrible how he played. Just absolutely, it was just fluff. Just garbage can that. Garbage can it. Get rid of it. But Whedon has some terrible receivers too. Greg Little, who they drafted high and thought that he was going to be a competent receiver. Drop pass after drop pass, tip pass after tip pass. This kid sucks. Sorry. Cleveland, your town sucks. Your team sucks. Everything, it's just an aura of suck in that town, in Cleveland. It's disgusting. Trent Richardson did have a highlight when he popped the helmet off of a safety trying to tackle him. But other than that, man, if it wasn't, the defense had to bail y'all out. Phil Dawson had to bail y'all out. And y'all still couldn't get it done. Couldn't move the ball. The only touchdown came because Vic gift wrapped the pick to D'Qwell Jackson, who ran it back in the end zone. Now, Philly, dream team. Y'all said that was done. Y'all said that was gone. You said because of the lockout, y'all didn't really have a chance to really gel together offensively and defensively. What the hell was that then? You had a full off season. You had preseason. Vic, you got to stay healthy because every time you take a hit, it's almost as if you're out for games and practices and things like that. There's no continuity. And they drop $100 million on you. And you're not getting it done? Son, come on, son. Come on, son. That team should have had 30 points in the first half against the Browns. Y'all got some problems. Some big-time problems. And you better shore that up. You better tighten that up big time. Because if y'all are struggling like that against a team like the Browns, how y'all really going to compete in the NFL or, much less the NFC? So, I predicted that the Eagles were going to beat the Browns. They did. What we learned is the Browns are still the Browns, other than D'Qwell Jackson. What we learned from the Eagles is that they got some serious continuity issues. They got some serious offensive issues that need to be addressed immediately. And it all revolves around Vic. Where Vic goes, that team goes. There's no way in hell that team should have struggled with a team like the Browns. With all that firepower, Vic, LaShawn McCoy, Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, Brent Selleck, Jason Avant, there's no way they should have struggled with a team like that. Tighten that up. Tighten that up. Now, the Atlanta Falcons at the Kansas City Chiefs. I predicted that the Chiefs would pull off the upset. The Falcons said, Adrian, go fuck yourself, because we're going to hang 40 on them. And that's what they did. They hung 40 on them to the Chiefs 24. And Matt, 2 points in the playoffs, Ryan, crapped all over that team. Crapped all over the Chiefs. Him and Julio Jones, they're trying to make their case as one of the best QB wide receiver duos in the league. Julio Jones ran wild on the Chiefs. That whole team ran wild on him except for Michael Turner, who I think at this point in time is not a good fit for that team. And I think he fell off. He's fallen off in the last 2 seasons. Outside of him, that passing game looked incredible. The Chiefs didn't look too bad either for a little bit until it got out of control. They're getting Tom Bahali back. And Jamal Charles, he looked like his surgery went really well, and he looks like he can be the Jamal Charles that everybody knows he can be. So all was not lost on the Chiefs other than the fact that they pretty much had a 40 burger put on them. But Castle didn't look too bad. Jamal Charles didn't look too bad. They just ran into a buzzsaw. I predicted that the Chiefs would pull the upset. The Falcons thought otherwise. I got that pick wrong. What have we learned? The Falcons are tired of hearing about their shortcomings. The Falcons are tired of hearing about how they can do well in the regular season, but in the postseason they just stink it up. They're tired of hearing about all of that. And if you look at what they did in week 1, they want to wipe their hands clean of that, and they want to move forward and be known as one of the elite teams in the league. Now, it's regular season, so they're going to still keep hearing it. But for this week alone, they get 5 stars for what they did. That was an offensive masterpiece, how they pulled that off in one of the most difficult stadiums to play in Arrowhead. Nobody really goes into Arrowhead and puts up 40 on the Chiefs. Ask the Packers that last season. It's really impossible. So, bravo to the Falcons on that. So, having said that, we're going to move forward. We're going to talk about another game that I predicted that a team was going to win, and I got thoroughly proven wrong big time. The Jets and Bills. I said that the Bills would have more offensive firepower, that the Bills would have a more cohesive offensive unit, and the Jets were so dysfunctional and really just non sequitur and just out of sync that they were going to have difficulty really putting up points. Oh my God, that they proved me wrong. And they proved a lot of people wrong. Because not only did they put up points, they damn near hung half a century on the Buffalo Bills. 48-28. And 3 of those touchdowns the Bills got was in garbage time. Because the fact of the matter is the Jets came out to play. Mark Sanchez came out balling. Finding Jeremy Curley in the end zone, touchdown 1. Finding rookie wide receiver Stephen Hill for 2 touchdowns. And then you got Cromartie running back 1 for a pick 6. This team was on fire. The Bills were not. The Bills absolutely sucked. Fred Jackson got hurt early. So once again, injuries are going to take their toll on that team. Fred Jackson gets a big contract, he can't stay healthy. Ryan Fitzpatrick gets a big contract, he's throwing pick 6s and throwing interceptions like Rice at a wedding. CJ Spiller had a great game. If you picked him up in your fantasy league, you're happy with CJ Spiller. But the rest of that team, or Stevie Johnson and or David Nelson, hey, fantasy-wise, they got you numbers, but if you're a Bills fan, you got to be scratching your head like, what the fuck happened? I mean, Buffalo ran y'all out the stadium. I mean, not Buffalo, the Jets ran the Bills out of the stadium. Like 48 points. They picked up Mario Williams. The biggest fish in free agency, they picked him up. They had Marcel Darius, they had Kyle Williams. Not Kyle Williams, excuse me. Yeah, Kyle Williams. I was right. And y'all let them hang 48 on y'all? The Jets, the same Jets that only scored 1 touchdown in the preseason, which, ladies and gentlemen, that lets everybody know, and I've said this time and time again, do not let preseason fool you. Ask the 2008 Detroit Lions when they went 4-0 in the preseason, and then went 0-16 after that. Everybody's saying that the Jets weren't going to have an offensive team because they couldn't get in the end zone in preseason. Yet they sat there and got in the end zone offensively at least 4 or 5 times. So what have we learned for the Jets? Don't let preseason fool you. They did what they were supposed to do. They got in the end zone. They scored big points. They did what a lot of people said that wasn't going to happen. And honestly, I fed into that too. Thought it was just a total circus, which it is. How you gonna bring in Tebow with all the news and noise that Rex Ryan makes and that defense makes and how everybody runs their mouth, but they're in a major market, so you can expect that. I'm thinking that they weren't really gonna do much. My bad, Jets fans. My bad, Rex Ryan. My bad, Mark Sanchez. My bad to the entire Jets offensive personnel. Sorry, I apologize, and damn, that was impressive. What we learned about the Bills, you're still the Bills. And Ryan Fitzpatrick basically just hustled y'all out of a lot of money to throw interceptions and a pick six. Fred Jackson hustled y'all out of a lot of money so he can stay home on medical leave. That team's gonna have some problems. Yeah, it's week 1, but it's gonna be a trend. So tough break, Bills fans. It's gonna happen. Now, moving on to the game I said was going to be my Crush Ramen Noodle Award for just, if this is the only game you can watch, tough break. It's the only thing that's going to satisfy your appetite if you're a football fan. But it turned out to be a pretty entertaining game, and this was the Minnesota Vikings versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I predicted that the Vikings would beat the Jaguars, although by a score like 10-7. Vikings beat the Jaguars in overtime by a score of 26-23. I got that pick right. I just didn't get it right how entertaining the game was going to be. Now you had second-year QB Christian Ponder versus second-year QB Blaine Gabbert. But the biggest story was the return of Adrian Peterson, who I thought was going to have some concerns about him coming off that knee injury. But he looked like that knee injury never happened. And ladies and gentlemen, you got to give credit to the advances in technology when it comes to medicine. Hits like these back in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, and maybe the early 2000s, careers are done. You got it now to where somebody tears an ACL and an MCL, they're out for about 6 or 7 months, and they're back out there playing like nothing happened. Jamal Charles is the same person. Tore his ACL real bad, came back and played very well. Peterson took a vicious hit to his knee, ACL, MCL, came out 2 touchdowns. What have we learned? Vikings, Peterson's back. And that's got to be something that you can bring a smile, that can bring a smile to your face. That can take a lot of pressure. That can take a lot of pressure, off of Christian Ponder having to be the guy to carry that team. If Peterson running the way he did in the game against the Jaguars is any indication, the Vikings have a chance to really be competent. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to leapfrog the Bears or the Packers, but they will compete. Ladies and gentlemen, they will compete. And that NFC North division is pretty stacked. So the Vikings have to have loved the fact that Peterson ran the way he did. What have we learned about the Jags? Blaine Gabbert's maturation looks pretty good, because you got to remember he was maligned all his rookie campaign at how bad he played. But an off-season, some familiarity with the playbook, and actually getting some reps in with his offensive squad, and totally forgot, Rashard Jennings was supposed to be the starting running back after Maurice Jones-Drew was held out because of his ongoing battle with the owner of the Jaguars for a bigger contract. He got hurt, so MJD comes in, and he starts playing like he's the MJD that we all knew he could be. So what have we learned? Gabbert is a lot better than a lot of people want to give him credit for. Now, I'm not saying he's going to just shoot up the ranks, but he definitely played that team towards near a victory. He got that team to tie. He got that team almost in a position to win when he threw that touchdown in the fourth quarter. That's a big time play. So let's give Gabbert a little bit more time before we, pass judgment on the kid. So having said that, we'll move on to yes, the Indianapolis Colts at the Chicago Bears. I predicted that the Bears were going to manhandle the Colts. A 41-21 score says I was right. So Yay for me. So that victory for me. But the main story was this was the debut regular season game of the #1 pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, Andrew Luck. Didn't have so much of it in this game. 3 picks. He did throw a touchdown pass though. But like I said, baptism by fire for this guy because it's the Bears and you're playing them at Soldier Field. The Bears, ladies and gentlemen, that offense looked great. Forte ran hard. Jay Cutler balled out. Found Brandon Marshall. He found Alshon Jeffrey on a beautiful deep pass. Cutler's got an arm. What you think about him personally, whatever, I'm talking as far as skill set. He's got an arm. That pass he threw to Alshon Jeffrey, man, that was right on the money. It was beautiful. Defensively, Bears did what they needed to do. For the Colts defensively, they got 1/3 of the point production for the Colts when Jay Cutler basically threw a bad pass that was pick 6 yards away from the end zone. So, defensively, obviously the Colts have a lot to work on, and they're in a 3-4 at this point because Mathis and Freeney are now linebackers instead of actually ends. So, a little bit of a shift for them. So, what have we learned? The Colts, we knew Andrew Luck as a rookie would have some growing pains, and I'm going to keep saying that because they're kids, they're puppies. They're going to have to grow. This is the things they have to go through in order to become a great quarterback in this league. Andrew Luck, he wasn't bad, but he was bad. 3 picks, hey, that's bad. But he kept his composure. He didn't get frustrated. But like I said, give him 2 or 3 more seasons, and he'll be the QB that a lot of people predict him to be. What we know about the Bears, like I said, Forte and Cutler stay healthy, that team is a perennial playoff contender. Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, toys for Cutler to play with, that's great. He's got firepower. He's got weapons now. He's got weapons on the outside. Gone are the days of Roy Williams and all the other junk receivers that they've had. Chicago's really never had a true #1 receiver if you look up the history of their franchise. So Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Cutler finally has weapons like he did when he was a QB for Denver, which coincidentally, Brandon Marshall was one of those weapons in Denver too. So that's what we learned from them. I will be back. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one short, but I'm going to return with part 2 of my what have we learned with the other teams, their games, the analysis and the predictions. I'm going to go ahead and just take a breather for a moment, so stay tuned. I'll be back with part 2.